Dr. Ostel. So I'm following up on a post I made about conference realignment and the possible impact it could have on student athletes' mental health. And that post got quite a bit of traction. And with that, some people were kind of belittling the possible impact this could have on student athletes. And for those of you that don't follow college sports, essentially the Pac-12, which was one of the bigger conferences, has more or less dissolved, and the schools have joined the Big Ten and the Big 12. And so the reason this could have an impact is because USC, UCLA are going to the Big Ten along with Oregon and Washington. And the Big Ten has schools literally on the other side of the country, such as Maryland and Rutgers. And although this is a football and money driven decision, what's fallen to the wayside is what is going to be the impact on student athletes that don't play football, especially a lot of women's sports. So, for example, baseball, softball will often play twice a week. And now they're going to have to go from the schools that I mentioned from one country to the other side. And so that's going to take a toll, mentally, as well as possibly physically. So I was on the app formerly known as Twitter, and I saw a post about a survey that the NCAA has done the last few years. And so I decided to look in that data to see what student athletes have said. And so the survey was done in 2021, and the results were released in fall of 2022. And I'm pretty sure they're probably going to be doing it again for this current fall to be released next year. And so the survey had 9,808 student athletes that completed the survey. And of those athletes, 3,054 were Division I student athletes, 3,978 were Division II, and 2,731 were Division III student athletes. So I'm going to put the data up on the screen for you to see. 18% of the participants competed in Division I men's sports, while 13% competed in Division I women's sports. So the survey asked if participants had previously transferred, and then it went on to ask for the reasons for that transfer. As you can see, for men's sports, 37% of the participants transferred due to playing time or participation opportunities, followed by academics and conflicts with coaches or teammates. For women's sports, the main factors were conflicts with coach or teammates, followed by mental health, which then was followed by a tie between playing time or participation opportunities and academics. The survey also asked if the participants had a likelihood of transferring at some point during this year. 8% of the participants who competed in men's sports at the Division I level said they were somewhat likely to very likely to transfer, while it was 10% for Division I participants in women's sports. When asked about the reasons for considering a transfer at some point this year, for Division I men's sports, the participants stated that it was playing time or participation opportunities, followed by mental health, then conflict with coaches or teammates. For participants competing in Division I women's sports, it was a tie between mental health, conflict with coaches or teammates, followed by playing time or participation opportunities. So when you look at the data, we do need to acknowledge the fact that because it was collected in 2021, COVID could be a factor as well as social distancing. How big of a factor in terms of the participants' responses, we can't say. We do need to at least acknowledge it. What we can say is that clearly mental health is a factor in terms of why student athletes have transferred and are considering transferring. And so for those student athletes that don't play football, which gets chartered flights to their games that only play once a week, how else are they going to be impacted by more travel time, more time on the road, more time away from school and also possibly family? Because their mental health, their relationships with their coaches and teammates, as well as their playing time and participation, they don't exist in a vacuum. They all coexist together. And so if an athlete is struggling more because of these long travels and the impact on their mental health, then that can lead to issues with coaches. It can lead to performance issues which impacts their playing time and vice versa. If they're not playing for some reason or another, that can impact their mental health, which starts to impact their academics. And it could impact their relationship with coaches and other people to various degrees. Additionally, we also had to think about, well, what happens if an athlete is on the other side of the country and they get injured? The rest of the team is probably going to travel back, but then who's going to stay with that athlete to be their mental and emotional support as well as their physical support until they can get back to their home school? And so we need to really just have more of a conversation about this. because I do think a lot of student athletes probably are going to transfer because of the toll it takes on them. In fact, a few of the Pac-12 softball players that are playing for some of the schools moving to the Big Ten have already come out to say, hey, I chose to go to school here because I want to be close to home so that my friends and family can see me play. And now the opportunity is very limited, if it exists at all still. And so we really need to take account these non-football player student athletes experiences, especially depending on how many people are allowed to take with them to travel. If they're going to be on the road for a lot longer, that means that they're putting more wear and tear on their body because they're not having the opportunity to really recover like they need to mentally and physically. So we got to ask these questions to come up with solutions. Otherwise, we might have more of a negative impact than what we are wanting. Please leave any comments, thoughts, questions, and I'll try to respond to them as I can.